I'm not sure we fully grasp everything that we just saw in that episode. And I know over the next week, I'm gonna be stuck thinking about it. And there's some stuff that I want to talk about. So if you haven't seen the newest episodes of From, or if you're currently watching it now, go ahead and skadoodle because there's gonna be some spoilers that I want to talk about. So the episode ends up opening to Boyd, Donna, Ellis, Jade, Henry, and Tabitha all sitting in the sheriff's station. Sorry, a lot of names. And they're all in there talking about the yellow suit that Victor and Jade found out in the woods. Ellis makes a really smart remark of, if the suit was there, where's the person that was wearing the suit? Tabitha is still in denial about the memories that her and Jade are starting to remember. But it's more just about the validity of the memories or what's gonna happen if she pursues the memories. Jade actually mentions that if Miranda was painting the man in yellow, then that means the memories of the man in yellow have to be somewhere in Tabitha's head. Donna's definitely not okay with Jade doing mushrooms, but Boyd thinks that any lead and any possibility is worth pursuing, especially after, in his words, that freaky little kid pops up and tells us we're running out of time. I just love the way that Boyd treats anything supernatural in this town. Donna and Ellis go up to the colony house to prepare for a trip out to the settlement to go get food, and Tabitha gets a moment alone with Jade. But then we flash over to Sophia and we see her snooping through the pastor's box, reading letters from who we can assume is his congregation, or people he's helped in the past. Sarah comes up, knocks on the door, and goes in to go talk to Sophia, and essentially asks why she wanted to live with her, especially after knowing what she's done in the past. Sophia says something about kindness and how she also wants her own room. But then when Sarah leaves to go downstairs, we see Sophia and she's got her eyes closed and she starts muttering a whole bunch. And then Sarah immediately starts hearing voices. So either the man in yellow or Sophia is the voice in Sarah's head, or they just have the ability to be a voice in Sarah's head, meaning more than one thing can talk to Sarah in her mind. We flash back over to Tabitha and Jade, and instead of Tabitha talking to Jade about the memories, she instead interrogates him about why he was with Ethan in the woods with Victor. He just ends up telling Tabitha that he was out there because Ethan wanted to, and he truly believes that the Lake of Tears is real because believing in something that's in his imagination is easier than dealing with the pain of real life, and that this is all just a part of him grieving. They're in a nightmare town. Why is it so hard to accept that a possible Lake of Tears could be real? Blows my mind. Ethan is trying to reach out and contact Jim using the same radio that Jim was using in season 1. Tabitha knocks and walks in, and Ethan really quickly hides it, but he ends up telling Tabitha that the reason he didn't tell her about the Lake of Tears was because he knew that she wasn't going to believe him. And in response, Tabitha tells him to pack a bag because they're going on a trip. They're going to go find the Lake of Tears in their favorite rocket ship, Little Einstein. Okay, anyway, sorry. Julie and Randall are sitting in Randall's bus, and they're both reading through Ethan's books, trying to find some kind of clue or hint about how to story walk. Randall ends up finding a chapter on story walking about storywalker Fred, who's a distant cousin of the Gulagog. But then Tabitha ends up coming in trying to get Julie to go with her and Ethan out to the settlement. But Julie's like, no, I don't want to go. I'll just stay here with Randall, Christy, and Marielle. And then Tabitha takes Randall off the bus and gives him the old, that's my daughter and she trusts you, don't betray her trust, or you don't even want to imagine what I'll do to you. But she actually lets Julie stay, and so that was actually a big growing moment for Tabitha. Ellis and Donna are prepping everyone to get ready to go out to the settlement, and Donna's leaving Kenny in charge while Ellis is trying to convince Fatima that he can just stay there with her, but she reassures him that she is okay and that he needs to go because Donna depends on him. But instead, Fatima just goes up to that dirt room where her and Elgin were collecting dirt. She dismisses Elgin, saying she doesn't need his help anymore, and she sets off to work. Henry ends up finding Victor measuring the trees and is able to convince Victor to talk to him about what he meant when he said he thought he just made it all up, to which Victor ends up taking him off into a different area to show him a bunch of drawings. Kenny ends up discovering a leak within Colony House. He follows the leak and finds a hose that leads into the dirt room that Fatima was collecting dirt, and he walks in and sees that she is now making a giant mud ball, waiting for the mushrooms to kick in that he had eaten earlier after his conversation with Tabitha. Kenny walks in and Jade thinks that it's just his hallucination, but it's very much not, and Kenny actually needs Boyd to go up to Colony House, and so that drags Jade with him because Boyd is trip sitting for Jade. Sarah is sitting in the church going through her thoughts when Elgin ends up walking in, and Sarah offers to leave, but Elgin actually asks her to stay there. They reminisce a little bit and then talk about how much things have changed, but Sarah actually starts to open up about how the voices have come back. And they talk about what the voices are telling Sarah to do, which is to go into the diner, pour a glass of water out of a pitcher, take a sip and pour the water back in. Sarah ends up also telling Elgin that the voices said that if she doesn't do it by midday, someone she knows and cares for is going to end up getting hurt. But she's worried that if she does drink the water and put it back in the pitcher, that the voices that she hears is like an infection, so it'll spread to other people, and she doesn't want to spread that to other people. Boyd goes into Fatima's room where her mud ball is significantly bigger, and she tells Boyd that she's making a monster. After discovering information about bookmarks in the story walking chapters, Julie tells Randall about a theory about how she thinks that everything that happens within that town and within that place seeps out into reality, allowing people to dream of the town and of the things that happen in the town, allowing them to write stories and books about it, which I love that theory, and I'm going to talk about it more in the future. Fatima shares a story with Boyd about her father and about how her beliefs and her family were really rigid, and to talk about other beliefs really wasn't welcome. But her dad always liked to talk about different faiths, where he would end up telling Fatima, people think that their road is the only road, but all roads lead to the divine. They just take different paths to get there. And then she asked Boyd if he knows anything about golems. Boyd explains all of this to Kenny, but Kenny tells him that this place, this town, changes people beyond recognition, and that the person that's up in the room playing with the mud is not a Fatima that he recognizes. Donna and Tabitha are talking with each other as they walk to the settlement, and Tabitha kind of opens up about how she thinks she's failing and she doesn't know what to do. And she opens up about how she's afraid to pursue the memories because she doesn't know what that knowledge is going to end up costing, and she's afraid of what happens if she doesn't pursue that knowledge. And then Donna ends up telling Tabitha that if anyone is going to do anything dumb and risky to protect the children and to protect Tabitha, it's gonna be Donna, which really makes me worry about her future. Ethan ends up calling Donna and Tabitha over because they find a little bird that isn't a crow and it's injured, so Ethan thinks it's a sign that they have to take this bird to the lake because the lake will heal the bird, allowing them to discover that that is the Lake of Tears, proving it's all real. Sophia is just staring into the pool, staring at where Dale walked into the wall after going through the faraway tree, and Christy and Marielle are watching her through a window in the diner, and they're talking about how much she prays, which makes me wonder, is all of Sophia's praying gonna be what gives her away? Just food for thought. Sarah ends up walking in, taking a glass, pouring a glass of water out of the pitcher, and she takes a drink, but instead of pouring it back in, she sets it down. Bacta ends up walking over and offering Sarah a position back at the diner and to come help her out there. And then as Bacta's walking away, Sarah actually asks her if she can dump out the water. And as soon as Bacta takes the glass and Sarah doesn't pour the glass of water into the pitcher, Sophia is pushed into the pool. And as soon as Sarah sees Sophia injured in the pool, she runs back into the diner, pours another glass of water, takes a sip, and pours the water back into the pitcher and stumbles back into a booth. Boyd and Jade are having a conversation on the steps of Colony House, and Jade tells Boyd that instead of asking what Fatima is building, ask why is Fatima building it now. Randall walks into Julie cutting her hair, and we have the haircut, you guys. I was so thrilled to see that haircut, but also so sad because that haircut means that moment is coming for her. Julie and Randall end up making it to the ruins, and they had this idea that they got from Ethan's books about bookmarks. And so Julie has this idea to take a blank piece of paper, go into the ruins and story walk, and when she goes into the past, she'll mark an X and drop the paper, and that paper should still be there when she story walks back to the present, or when Randall pulls her out. But when she steps in and she story walks back to the day of the town massacre, when everyone in town is just strewn about on the ground. She hears some sloshing behind her, and she turns around, and we see the man in yellow eating one of the residents, confirming what happens to the organs of the victims. Man in yellow sees her, and Julie quickly marks the piece of paper and drops it, and right as the man in yellow is about to get her, Randall pulls her out of the story walk. But when Julie went to go check her pocket for the paper, the blank piece of paper was still in her pocket. But I feel like it actually did work, and they're gonna find the paper later on. Victor digs up the drawings and ends up giving them over to Henry, and Henry pulls them out and sees a whole bunch of drawings on the man in yellow, and Victor tells the story. The man in yellow arrived in town in a car just like the rest of them, manipulated everyone and made them think that he was just like them, and Victor as a kid actually liked his suit. But it wasn't long until they realized that he was nothing like them. And when Victor went off to go try to find his mom, he actually ended up finding the man in yellow eating his mom. And when Henry sees the picture of the man in yellow eating Miranda, it mentally breaks him. Sophia goes to the clinic to have her arm checked out by Christy and Marielle, where they tell her it's broken. And Sophia tells them that it's just a test sent by God, and then tells a story about Abraham and how God tested Abraham by getting Abraham to almost sacrifice his first son. But then at the last minute, a goat ended up showing up, and God told Abraham to sacrifice that instead. But while Sophia's telling the story, we actually flash over and we see Sophia staring at the pitcher as Bacta pours it out. It was all just a test to see how long or how many times it would take in order to get Sarah to listen to the voices. Fatima tells Boyd and Kenny that she can still feel Smiley, and that Smiley can still feel her and what she's feeling, and that he enjoys her fear. So building this golem as their champion is a way for her to fight back and for her to feel strong. He tells Kenny everything is okay and that it might be good to have a champion in their corner. But then as Boyd is leaving, he hears something drop on the ground, and when he goes to pick it up, it's an identical ring to the ring that he has in his memorabilia box of Abby. And so Boyd ends up running back to the sheriff's station, goes into his room, pulls out his memorabilia box, finds the ring that's in the box. But when he goes to look at the other ring, it vanished and it's no longer there. So either he's losing his mind, the man in yellow / Sophia is messing with him, or I think Julie is story walking and she knew that Boyd needed to think something was wrong with the ring in order to trigger something else to happen. Donna and the rest of the walking party end up arriving to the settlement, and as Ellis and 2 of the other residents are harvesting some of the vegetables, Donna, Ethan, and Tabitha end up going down to the lake to go pour some water onto the injured bird. But while they're doing that, Roger ends up finding a rope buried underground, and he pulls it up and tries to tug on it, which then causes 3 large objects to start surfacing in the middle of the lake, where the episode ends. Those are the scarecrows. Next episode is the scarecrows. Some people might say that this episode was slow, or that this episode was filler, but there was loads of things that we learned, which will be talked about in upcoming videos. What did you think of the episode as a whole? And what was your favorite part or favorite thing to learn through the episode? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and let me know.